everyone. Hello, hello, hello. How are you doing? Let me see. Let me put myself first. Hold on. Let's see. Am I going to change? Is it going to make me me? Yeah. Let's go. Let's just do it like this for a minute. Hi, everyone. How is everyone doing? I hope you all have had an amazing holiday season. Like, we just came out of Thanksgiving. Now we're into Christmas. I really feel like this year just really flew by. It just really went by really, really fast. So again, I want to thank everyone for coming to Love Talks December edition. We're gonna have a good little ball tonight. Thank you guys for joining. Tonight for Love Talks December, we have my girl, my friend, Miss Lakrisha Coleman. Listen, it's so much that I could say about her. Like, I am just so proud of your growth and where you are. Listen, this is special for us. Like, she was the one who she hosted our book release back in last year. And so what more than bring her back at this time when she has given birth to her very own counseling service. And it's called Hearts to Heal Counseling and Consultation, LLC. Yes. With that being said, my friend, the licensed medical social worker, the member of Delta Theta Sigma. Theta Sigma. I'm going to get it right. Delta Sigma Theta. My blood sugar low. I'm sorry, ladies. If y'all come back and watch this, don't jump on me. I'm sorry. The member of DST. None other than my friend Cree. You can have the floor, love.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Chiquita has been my inspiration since the day I met her. And it's a funny little background story before I, get into a little bit about myself, is that when I first started in hospice, because prior to, I was working with Mental Health Center, which is now called Wellstone, for God knows how long. And I wanted a little shift so I can get a little bit more experience. And I started working with Kindred Hospice with Jaquita, and first day I met Jaquita, I don't know what was on her plate that day, but she looked at me and said, "I quit." I'm like, whoa, wait, I just met you. she was about to walk out, and from that day forward, every time she said she quit, she go harder, and she change up a lot of the things that she do to make sure that whatever her goal is, she's going to achieve it by any means necessary. So her achievements in everything that she's birthed, like Love Beyond, has inspired me in my journey in having my own practice. So I want to give that thanks back to you, Keita, and I appreciate you for allowing me to be the speaker this evening for Love Beyond. A little bit about myself. I am born and raised in Chattanooga, Tennessee. I was from Chattanooga, Tennessee, but I grew up, I would say, in Huntsville. The reason why I say that is because my adult life was spent in Huntsville. I came here to go to school at Alabama A&M University, whoop, whoop, for Bulldogs. I came down for the wrong reason. Well, I came down for the right reasons, but my mind wasn't in the right place. And I stayed there for like a year. No, I don't even think it was a year. It was maybe a semester before kids started dropping out the sky. So I have two kids. I have a 22-year-old daughter and a 26 almost year old son. And I have been in the mental health profession for over, I don't want to age myself, but I would say close to 20 some odd years now. I've worked with every population from babies to, in hospice, geriatrics. So from 0 to 100, like I like to say. And what I love about this profession is that you get to pour into people and allow people with their life and experience to pour into you, which I think is sort of like that circle of life that keeps us going. So I enjoy being a help of any kind to people through my own personal experiences. And I'll share a little bit about my story in tonight's topic. Growing up, I was one of 3 girls. I'm the youngest, and our mom and us were not very close. She had a lot of trauma growing up with her mother, and which caused her to do things at a really, really young age, like have children and stuff. So she wasn't really the ideal parent mother type. She would say things to me such as, "You're stupid, you're dumb, you're not going to be anything, you're not going to do this," and very physically aggressive towards me. So everything that I aspired to overcome was based on the triggers that would push me into thinking that I wasn't good enough. And so when Jaquita brought this topic up to me tonight, not tonight, back, I say about 2 months ago, I thought it would be a great way to introduce my story and how helping others to identify their triggers and coping with those triggers would be beneficial. So we'll go ahead and get started. Tonight's topic is on trigger warnings. But before we get into that, I want to play a video clip. And let me just say before this clip is played, it may cause or create or elicit feelings of sadness or panic or anger, or even depression or any suicide ideations. And if that is something that happens within you, if it elicits any of those emotions, then at the end of this presentation, feel free to get off. But if at the end of this presentation, I will give information on ways to seek help if those are the feelings that you are experiencing. Okay. So with that being said, Jaquita, will you play the clip for me? Okay, and all right, you can stop right there. So in that clip, for those of you that have joined in, what immediate feelings comes to mind when you see a clip like that? It did not have the sound, but I didn't think that the sound would be necessary. The sound is not necessary for you to see the picture of what is going on. So what immediate feelings come to mind when you saw that clip?
Well, for me, the first one is just sadness that she had to endure it, and then anger. Just me and my sister, I guess.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? I see a hand up. Nope, that's my hand. Anyone else?
I immediately got angry. I got angry. I don't know if sadness hit me yet, but I was angry.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay. So in that picture, of course, we know that it was about domestic violence, and it's so normal in today's society, especially with our younger youth, and how we interpret and cope with those things can turn into how we deal with our present life. Our past traumas can the way we cope with past traumas can show up in our everyday life. So let's get into discussing what trigger warnings are, okay? Because when I thought about the topic for tonight, trigger warnings, I had to break that down for myself because there's a difference between trigger warnings and triggers. So that's what we're going to discuss first, and then we'll get into some other things regarding triggers. So, and I like to write everything down. So if y'all see me looking over to the side, it's because I'm trying to make sure that my thoughts flow. Okay. So trigger warnings, there is a statement made prior to sharing potentially disturbing content. And as before Jaquita played the video clip earlier, those words of, hey, listen, what is about to be shown may trigger some things inside of you, because I don't know if, or you may know that it may be something that you have dealt with. And because this is for this program, something that either you have experienced or witnessed, then it very well may trigger some things inside of you. And sometimes we don't even know that that's where it's coming from. So that's what trigger warnings are. I can think back to another time where most recently, the George Floyd incident. I remember seeing it on Facebook, and where Facebook now, places people on restrictions when they show things like that because of the content and how it affects people. That's what a trigger warning is supposed to do. It's supposed to warn you of content or anything that may trigger something in you that may make you relive a trauma from your past. Okay. The content might include graphic references to self-harm, to sexual or physical abuse, violence, and even most recently, the weather. You'd be surprised how many people are more anxious around certain times of the year, like when it's more tornadic weather. Now we have to be a little bit more aware, even in the winter months, now that we know that storms like that can happen. I remember back in 2011 when we had the outbreak of tornadoes, that severely changed my life, because now every time during that time of the season, I remember the meteorologist saying, if you see the sun, be worried. And I'm thinking, how ironic is that? Spiritually, if you see the sun, be worried. No, why we got to be worried? But now it's associated with tornadoes. So that's a trigger, for some people now. So what is a trigger? All right. Triggers are typically related to trauma and relates to the re-experiencing of symptoms of trauma when in certain situations after the trauma. So, for example, if you've ever been assaulted, and whoever assaulted you had this specific scent, or had a particular voice or pitch in their voice. That type of trauma can be relived even if you're not present in that type of trauma, that past trauma. It can be relived, like going down the aisle at Ross and they have all these scented candles, and you pick up on a smell that relates to something that was traumatic to you. So for another example, and this is a more fun example, I don't know how many of you watch Versus. I think Instagram Live is what I usually watch it on. And not all triggers are, they're good to make you aware, but sometimes they bring up memories where you don't even know that it's happening. So like on Versus, the last one, I think it was 3 6 Mafia and Bone Thugs and Harmony. And I remember thinking when I was listening to the both of their styles, how the memory of 3 6, because they're from Tennessee, I'm from Tennessee, it was the club, tear the club up, usually resulting in ending in a fight. So I remember when I was listening to it, that I would get like anxious, like my blood would like feel your heart pumping and stuff. I'm like, what is going on? It's just a song. Like, and then you hear, wake up, wake up, wake up. It's the first of the month. And you all chilled out because you might have been high during that time. So it's in things such as, anything that's connected to a strong memory where triggers exist. Okay, so as a reminder, such as these can cause overwhelming sadness, anxiety, or panic of events, or even flashback. Flashbacks, triggers that causes flashbacks are sometimes very vivid because we're in that present moment of that trauma. So if, say for instance, you were raped, and somebody that resembled your rapist was in a far distance, you may freeze, you may panic, you may even avoid a certain area because you're instantly taken back to that moment. So triggers can take on many, many internal and external forms. The internal forms or the external forms, for example, let me see, the site includes the site of the trauma, such as where the trauma happened, such as if it was in your home or in an alley, or if something, if someone died in a car accident, or you were in a car accident, wherever the trauma happened, those are the external traumas. The internal triggers of the trauma, and I keep saying trauma and triggers because they're interrelated, because most triggers are related to trauma. So if you hear me saying that, it's because they're interrelated. Internal triggers, examples include feeling insecure socially. And this is just an example, if you're feeling insecure socially, a person like this may isolate or present with passive behaviors, or feel a need to drink alcohol in order to be relaxed enough to do something like a presentation. I didn't drink anything. I just want y'all to know that. But that's sometimes how internal triggers present. Okay. External triggers, as mentioned earlier, also include smell, sound, any of your 5 senses. Okay. Music, people, movies, places, seasons, as we discussed with the weather, specific time of year. In the year or two of COVID, we've had a lot of loss. And a lot of people have lost loved ones at specific times. Like the holidays are specifically hard for some, like myself, because I've grieved and lost a lot during this time. And so for anyone that's lost someone, COVID related or not, that specific time of year will be tough, and it'll have a lot of triggers, such as, like Thanksgiving. If you have a loved one that's no longer here and Thanksgiving is about being around family, then it's going to elicit emotions of, despair and sadness and things of that sort. So triggers are also commonly used in the context of substance abuse. I know if you know anything about addiction, you've more than likely heard of relapse. And usually someone relapse when it comes to substance abuse, it's related to a trigger. Something triggered them to relapse. And it could be stress related. It could be family related. It can be a number of things, but triggers in the context of substance abuse usually relates to what happens right before you start to use drugs again. Okay. So how are triggers formed? So I did a lot of research prior to this presentation tonight, and I'm going to read something that I thought was very interesting in the many theories that they have in how triggers are formed. This one struck me as like, I can see that. I can see that. So when a person is in a threatening situation, they may engage in something that's called a fight or flight response. The body goes on high alert, prioritizing all its resources to react to that situation. Functions that aren't necessarily necessary for survival, such as digestion, is put on hold. So say, for instance, if you're in that fight or flight, you ain't gonna be hungry. Well, most people not. You're not gonna think to eat or drink water or calm yourself down. One of the functions neglected during that particular fight or flight situation is something called short-term memory. In some cases, a person's brain may misfile the traumatic event in its memory storage. So rather than being stored in the past, you're reliving it as if it's still in the present. So that's one of the theories of how triggers are formed. Okay. All right. So the goal of trigger warnings is to allow people with mental health concerns to avoid or prepare themselves for triggers. So how do we deal with triggers? All right. There have been a number of coping skills and ways that people deal with triggers. Of course, being in the mental health profession, it's always a good idea to seek therapy, because while triggers are useful in keeping us aware of things that we don't want to repeat, avoiding those triggers will not address the mental health, the underlying mental health concerns that may be there, or the source of what's causing those triggers. So ways to deal with triggers. Name it. In the well-known way of how you feel, it's okay to say, I'm scared. Name the feeling that you're feeling. And when you put a name to it, then you can attach it to what is coming from. And if you know what it's coming from, then it's very likely that you can put things in place, coping skills in place to help you manage it. Okay. Seek the source. Identifying the source of a trigger reaction, a specific event, or a trauma is central to freeing ourselves from it. Triggers based on past trauma show us where the past invades our present. Like I said before, if we're reliving the trauma and it's in our past as if it's in our present, it hinders us from being able to move forward and remain in the present. Okay. But they also allow us to look directly into the hidden world of who we are. Be aware of the projection. Trigger reactions are about projection. For example, if you feel like, if you're upset and you feel like somebody's upset with you, and you have been used to, being belittled and talked at, then you're doing it to somebody. It's because most likely that's the way that you interpret everything with somebody that is being assertive, and misunderstanding the assertiveness as being anger. Okay, especially if that's something that is a trauma for you in your past. Like I said, when I was younger, being told or cursed out and told I wasn't going to be anything, and now has, I understand it now, but it led to me being a lot more self-conscious around females, because I don't trust them. I didn't trust them because every female that had an opinion, I looked at as my mom, somebody that is belittling me or doubting me or, things of that sort. So being able to identify what you're projecting helps to, again, cope better with the triggers. Notice hypoarousal signs. When we're triggered, there are hormones called cortisol and adrenaline that course through our veins. So you might feel fragile, disorganized, and disoriented. So try calming yourself down, taking deep breaths. Will that always work? Maybe not, but it doesn't help. I mean, it doesn't hurt to try. Let's see. Another one. Oh, don't fight the inner voice. If you're being triggered by an inner critic, don't reply with an opposing opinion. That reaction will only start an argument. Instead, try to incorporate some self-care practices, such as identifying affirmations. I have a lot of affirmations on my walls. So saying things that affirm your worth, okay? Practice knowing and showing your emotions. Emotions are just like muscles. They develop in healthy ways by being used appropriately. And taking a breather. When we're triggered, we lose our objectivity. We may feel like the wind is knocked out of us. This makes us much harder for us to say what we need to be said. Try stepping away for a minute. A lot of times the hustle and bustle of life may get us down, and before we know it, any little thing will trigger us, and it's okay to take a step back for a moment and take a breath, inhale, step back. It'll be there. Trust me, it'll be there. Whatever it is, it'll be there. But it's easier for you to deal with it if you're taking care of yourself and taking a break from it. Okay. Find the humor. I think laughter is food for the soul. I believe in finding the humor in life, because life can be extremely chaotic and sad, especially nowadays. And everywhere you look can be a trigger, especially on social media, on the news, your next door neighbor, your coworker. Everything can be a trigger. So find the humor, because it's okay. It's okay to laugh. And last but not least, know that you're not alone. I've listened to a lot of Love Beyond presentations, whether it be after she's recorded it or during the live, and all the speakers have a story that somebody can relate to. And chances are, everything that you've dealt with in your past that's related to a trauma, you're not by yourself. So know that you're not alone. Okay. And so with that being said, that concludes my presentation, and I will take any questions that anyone may have.
Girl, I had to learn how to unmute the thing. Anyway, I'm on this laptop. Listen, this was really, really good. I wanted to talk about trigger warnings for a long time, but never knew how to discuss it with the team and just with our audience in general. I know you brought up the song, the playing, the verses. I was like, listen, I know, like for me and Nigel back in Anderson, you play any Lil Jon and it's about to pop off. Like I could hear Lil Jon now and I'm like, okay, let me grab my purse. It's time to go.
Right.
So I get that part now that you said it. I'm like, okay, that is a trigger. And you never know what is a trigger. I know for me, with my whole DV experience and the things that I've been through in life, you know, the rape and the molestation and things like that. One of my accuser smoked cigars all the time. And so smelling smoke triggers something for me. It triggers something is bad about to happen, you know? So I think I've even talked to you about, like, at night, I would wake up smelling smoke and I just immediately think of death. And so now I know that's a trigger. And it not, you know, that's something that I have to deal with on myself because, you know, it's just, it's smoke, baby, you know, and I've got to get that out my head. But I do appreciate you breaking down the difference between a trigger and the warning. So I thank you for that.
No problem. And to your point of, you know, recognizing what that trigger does to you is more than half of the equation of beginning to cope with your triggers. I have been trying to call myself dating, y'all. I'm gonna put that out there. And it's a guy that it's a long distance thing. And every time I talk to him, he brings up his mother, and there's nothing wrong with a man loving his mother. Let me go ahead and put that out there. But here's where it is difficult for me. My last marriage, my ex-husband was an only child. And so it brought up a lot of memories of the difficulties of that marriage. When every time he brings up his mom, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, he's going to be this way. He's going to do this. You know, he don't even know. I ain't even said that to him. I just get upset and annoyed and agitated, like, real quick, and I end the conversation. Bye, gotta go. And part of the issue when it comes to identifying triggers is we'll try to push it out the way or ignore it or avoid it and play that strong woman type and, you know, blah, 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 when this thing is sitting right there and we need to address it. You know, call a spade a spade. It's a problem. It is what it is. Now what are we gonna do about it? And so that's where the coping plays a role in how we manage, because as long as we're alive, there are going to be triggers, because that's, to be human is to experience disappointment, to experience hurt, to experience pain. That's what it means, in addition to all the good, you know, good feelings. But you're going to experience some type of trauma. And Black people, we have layers of trauma, layers of it, whether it be directly or indirectly. And so a lot of times when those things aren't addressed, we end up, you know, having the most trouble, although we can mask and put this persona on as if everything is fine and everything. Inside, we're crumbling to pieces because we're not addressing the things that's causing us to feel the way we're feeling. So I do appreciate you bringing out or introducing this topic. And I hope that it does help anyone that's listening, anyone that's on here, to get more motivated to seek help to deal with any source that of triggers that's related to a trauma. Any other questions?
Yeah. Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Yeah. I like to say sometimes we don't know those triggers until they come. And some things we don't think we think we're over it until that time come. Like I was telling Jaquita when I had went out back at home, and it was this guy from the domestic violence situation I was in. Normally when I'm with my husband, I feel secure. Mm-hmm. So he waved, I waved, and like, boy, gone. So one time that my husband wasn't there, he wants to hold a conversation. I'm still trying to keep it cute and sweet and just wave and go. But in the back of my mind, I need to keep some in my hand. So going out the door, so because I had my family with me from out of town, I still tried not to show how I'm feeling on the inside because I don't want no bad reaction. So while I'm trying to hold all this in so it don't take but much, he grabbed me by my arm. So, you know, it went left real quick, but I kind of pulled it back. And what he said triggered me again because he said, there you go, being extra. Like I'm walking around with a knot on my head. And he like, you acting like somebody just beat you. So it was like those things. So when we think we done dealt with something and over it, sometimes it just take that trigger. So it was times that I will avoid going to that certain spot because I know he gonna be there or whatever. So I think I addressed it enough, but I still don't like run into him because I feel like it's always that person who always want to poke, and then play what I do. Then nobody do nothing to her or whatever. So I think that would probably be a consistent trigger. So even like now, I don't like when people, and it's probably coming from the way I was raised, when people try to make you feel how they expect you to feel about a situation. Like your mom or somebody cussed you out. Or my mama cussed me out. I'm all right. But you don't know how that affect that person. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's like, well, don't expect me to feel how you felt about the situation.
Right.
Or whatever. So yeah, I get that.
Absolutely. And you know, sometimes when we know, identify what the trigger is, like you were saying, I just like, you know, just knowing that if I know that going to the club is gonna make me feel like somebody's gonna attack me, guess what I'm gonna do? I ain't going to no club. that just don't make sense.
Right.
So if you know, you know, it's gonna go left with this particular person, I don't need to be around you, you know, because that's a feeling that it doesn't do me any good, and it definitely doesn't help my present. You know,
Right.
it just continues to push my past, you know. So, and that's where the past should be, in the past.
And what helps me now, I keep telling myself, I got too much to lose. I got too much to lose. So that kind of helps me. Is it worth it or is it not worth it? Do I need to address it or not address it? You know?
Right. Good stuff.
I know, like for me, everybody on this live except Zalika might know this, but I do not want to be touched. Please don't hug me. Don't approach me. It's a trigger for me, and people don't understand. Like, you should want to. You're so bubbly. This, we love you. Touch me. I want to hug you. I'm like, don't touch me. Don't put your grimy hands on me. You know, and it's a trigger for me because when someone it's just a trigger for me because that's how I was approached. You know, I was grabbed and I was, you know, hugs for me doesn't feel like a love. It doesn't. It doesn't feel loving to me. It feels like I'm about to be attacked. And so for a person that never got a lot of hugs when they were a kid, until the hugs that they got was violent, my mind doesn't see a difference. So now, even in this stage of life, and people, oh, you're doing a great job, and I'm like, it stresses me out. I probably go into an anxiety attack. Like, don't touch me. You know, it is. You know, everybody knows, don't touch me. But I'm trying to, you know, work my way through it. There are times where I'll actually give a hug, and they're like, oh, this is great. And I'm like, write it down because it's not going to happen again. But I tried. I tried. Okay. You know, if you got to take a picture or whatever, but you know, that's something that, you know, like not just you got to work on some things. And that's something that I am trying to, you know, figure out and do better at.
Yeah. And to your point, you and Nigel, you know, in discussing triggers and the feelings, you know, there is usually a meaning, this is why the triggers are so intense and so disturbing, because of the meaning behind the trigger. I wrote some things down of the categories of the feelings that we interpret behind certain triggers. Feeling self-conscious, such as when we're alone in a group or comparing ourselves to others. Being discounted, such as when someone stands us up or ignores our calls or our feelings. Feeling like we are being controlled, such as when someone is making decisions for us or telling us what to do or feel. Feeling like we're being taken advantage of, such as when someone fails to pay us back when we loan them some money. I don't know why that came to mind. Feeling vulnerable, such as when we're in a situation which we're exposed or helpless. Relationship experiences, boundary concerns, such as when someone, like you were saying, Keita, when someone enters into our space without our permission. Feeling uncomfortable about what is happening, such as when we witness someone being hurt or when someone's words or actions disagree with our values. Fearing what might happen, such as when a threat appears to be imminent. And those interpretations, when it comes to triggers, make coping with them difficult because of how we interpret it. So seeking counseling or being able to identify whichever one you're comfortable with. If you're comfortable with talking to someone, I would strongly recommend that a professional to talk those things out, because our thoughts can be very distorted in how we interpret things. And that may be based off of how we were raised, what our values are compared to what they were when we were younger to what they are now. And that's okay. It's okay. It's okay to not be okay and to say, hey, I need some help with figuring some things out, because this walking down the aisles or walking past someone that smokes a cigar, I don't understand why it's causing such a strong reaction. So make sure that if that's something that you deal with, if those are triggers that you deal with, of course, my recommendation is always to talk to someone professionally. Or if you have someone a trusted someone that you can talk to, it doesn't always have to be a professional counselor, although I strongly recommend that. It can be someone spiritually. It can be, a good girlfriend or environment. So the only thing about that I would say is consider your source of who you talk to, because trauma begets trauma. So if you're talking to somebody that has come from a traumatic background and hasn't dealt with it themselves, then they're not going to be as much help to you. With that being said, also, like I stated earlier, if any of what we've talked about tonight has elicited any strong feelings, such as any suicidal ideations, there's a crisis hotline, a suicide crisis hotline. There is Wellstone has a 24-hour on-call line. And then if all else, doesn't work out, just go to your nearest hospital.
Awesome. Thank you, Cree.
You're welcome.
Wait, do I gotta be professional? Lakrisha, thank you so very much. This was very good. But I need you to tell us, how can we get in touch with you? How do we follow you? How do we connect with you?
Yes. So like Keita, for the ones that just maybe got on after the introduction, I just started my own private practice. It's called Hearts to Heal Counseling and Consultation. I am located off Jordan Lane. I wanted to be right smack dead into the middle of our community. And you can reach me on psychologytoday.com and type in my name, Lakrisha Coleman. And if you want to set up an appointment with me, you can do so through that website. I'm trying to build up another website until that one gets done. I am taking new patients and through Psychology Today, and I'm accepting Blue Cross, Cigna, and private pay right now.
Awesome sauce, awesome sauce. So listen, I appreciate you. I thank you for all this great information, this good old girls talk that we always have. So
Yes.
I am again super proud of you and where you are in life. So yeah, this was good. I know a lot about her, and so for her to even do this was amazing. Everybody can't get on lives. I know. I hate to do lives, but
That's
this
why my
has
picture's still up.
see what I'm saying? Everybody can't do it. So I know her. So this took a big amount of courage and faith and trust for her to do this. So I thank you, Cree, for doing this for us tonight. And listen, this was amazing. I will get your information. I'll share it on our Facebook page so everybody can have your contact information. We want to make sure that people have the resources that they need. So
Thank
this
you.
was good.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Listen, 2022 is going to be a year. It's going to be pretty dope for Love Beyond and everybody that follows us. So Love Talks will continue because I think it works. You know, everybody might not be on here, but it gets replayed a lot. So Love Beyond 2022, please be ready. Have your rolling skates on because we coming out the gate skating. Do you hear me? So listen, I thank you guys. What you say, Sonya?
Not me. I'm walking.
You're skating. You're skating. All right, y'all. Thank you guys for joining us. It's been amazing. I love each and every one of you guys. Have a blessed and happy holiday.
Merry Christmas and Happy New
Merry
Year.
Christmas.
Merry
Merry Christmas.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.